Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Those of us who have reached a certain age can identify with Annabelle Gurwitch, a wife, mother, actress, comedian, and writer who is struggling not only with the accumulated baggage of 50-plus years, but with trying to fend off the eye bags, too. In her latest book, she chronicles the humiliations, revelations, and rewards of aging in a way that is both touching and hilarious. I See You Made an Effort. Compliments, Indignities, and Survival Stories from the Edge of 50 has just been issued in paperback by the Plume imprint of Penguin Books. And if you've already received your welcome letter from AARP, you will find that she is an astute and wily observer of her life and others. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. Your intro just cracked me up because my husband just got yet another missive from the AARP, and this one had not just one card in it for him, it had an extra card in case someone else in the household, me,
they want you.
Oh, they want me.
They
really want me.
So what made you decide to write this book?
Okay, so this book was not planned to be a book about a coming of middle-age memoir, as I'm calling it. I was just writing a series of essays that just were about, usually what I write about are starts with anecdotal sort of stories, but they're always about kind of serious issues. And the first couple of essays I was writing were about, the first one was actually about taking my son to a concert and realizing that I was basically living proof of Einstein's theory of relativity, parallel universes, that age had spun me into an alternate universe. It was this crazy thing where there were all these teenagers, and I realized, oh, I'm invisible. Mm-hmm. They can't even see me. It was this moment where it was a very revelatory moment, and I wrote this funny little story about invisibility. Then I was writing another story, and this story was about doing a charity benefit at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel where I live in Los Angeles, and realizing that a certain window had closed in my life, and that was the window in which I might become very wealthy.
And be exposed to this kind of luxury all the time.
And exposure, yes. I walked into this, because what I realized at that moment when I was doing this event in this hotel where even the air smelled expensive, where 70% of the men in the restaurant had nautically themed outfits on, which is where you always know you're in the presence of extreme wealth. You're nowhere near a body of water. People are wearing brass button suits. And I realized, when you're young, you have this sort of all-access pass to just about any enclave in society. But then there's a time when you realize that certain things are not going to happen for you, or certain doors have closed. And that's just a reality on so many levels. It's sort of like when I said goodbye to my fertility. That's just a real thing. That's not a neurotic thing. That's actual hitting a certain age. So
you
all
realized
these things happened.
You had the beginnings of a book.
I suddenly realized there was a theme happening here. It wasn't just, these things weren't unrelated. So
a lot of humor is self-deprecating. That seems to be especially true of female comics. Do you agree? Why is that?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Or is all comedy self-deprecating?
I think most comedy is, I wouldn't just even say self-deprecating. I mean, I think the people whose work I really love, Chris Rock. Love Chris Rock. What are my favorite bits of his, right? I love the thing about, guns aren't the problem, bullets are the problem, we got to make bullets more expensive. I mean, he's talking about really serious things. I always think that it's the most serious things that are rife for humor, because it's so serious. That's why we have to laugh. It's how to cope, and that's really sort of emerged as the theme in my writing.
Okay.
This is my third book now, and I've sort of, in my own mind, I have I've quantified what I'm interested in, and that's what I call the comedy of humiliation. So my first book was inspired by the experience of being fired, which was, when it happens to you, nothing funny about it. It's only funny in retrospect because it's so horrible. And I, realized, and that book was a book I edited of stories about being fired. And it's a collection of stories from show business people and people from all specters. It became sort of a Studs Terkel project. Robert Reich, former labor secretary. So it's about the transformative experience of the horribleness of being fired, but what it can, do for you. And
well, let's pick up on that. Talking about humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
You write in this book about the physical changes brought on by, I guess it's perimenopause is the proper.
Screw it. Let's just say menopause.
Was there a single moment when you suddenly realized that physically you were in your 50s? Was there a single moment?
I would say it's a series of moments that happens every single moment of the day. And I don't mean this in just a purely a vanity sense. First of all, I mean, I have a wardrobe that I cannot afford to replace entirely. So when I eat a cashew now, so just eating is a complete. You realize your metabolism changes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying to fit in my clothes so I don't have to buy an entire new wardrobe or leave my house in a duvet cover. I mean, that's actually an issue. But for me, I think what started to happen was I would be walking through my living room and I would look in the mirror and I would think, oh, what's my mother doing visiting? Or say, oh my God, that's me. And I don't just mean that in the sense of like, the vanity of it. Sure, there's that. But there's just, when you start to see your mother and your grandmother's face, or just when you see yourself change like that, you start thinking about your own mortality. I mean, it really is the one of the ways that we see ourselves, moving through a different passage.
You talk about discovering one day your old lady hands. They don't look like old lady hands to me, but
Oh, that's not true. If you just take a look, they're just crooked. Now I have, it's fantastic. I'm going to try to say this in a sort of sexy, alluring way. I have osteoarthritis. Now this is one of those things. Again, I write in the book about things which you could say are the neurotic, and then I write about actually biological, physiological changes, right? So I was putting together my son's trampoline. I'm the person in the house with the power tools, and I like a good project. So I was putting together this big trampoline in our backyard for my son and his friends, and I did it myself. It took me about 3.5 hours, and afterwards I was in so much pain. I thought, what, and I thought, I just strained something. But no, as it turns out, I had jump-started, I had just activated this genetic predisposition for osteoarthritis, which I inherited from my grandmother. And basically, my hands are painful every second of the day.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do about it. And when I went to see this rheumatologist, again, very, very sexy thing, he said to me, we just call what you have old lady hands.
And you said, thanks, doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, this is one of those, things that you realize why all those Disney movies, the witch and the evil stepmother has the it's just a sign of being old.
There you go.
Yes.
You live in L.A.
Yes, I do.
And being in the business, you know a lot of people who are very wealthy, while your lifestyle is more modest. You call this being, quote, Hollywood adjacent.
Yes.
What is that like?
This is a little phrase that I tell myself, and it's living in the shadow of great wealth, as I think many of us do who live particularly in a city. If you live in the suburbs, you can sort of be more separate, or people live. But I live in a place not unlike New York, where you see just this extreme wealth, and sometimes you sort of you interface with it, you touch it, but it's not your life. And so in the one story that I write about that, I write about how it is a strange thing when you say you run into friends who've become because it's one business, show business is a business where you can ostensibly go from nothing to everything in a way that is a little bit different than certain other industries in America. I have friends who have become, I will interact with people that I started in the business with on the low budget movie where we shared a dressing room and got paid nothing, who are now, you know, multi-millionaires. And it's this crazy interaction of seeing them, but knowing that you don't vacation in the same places, your kids don't go to the same schools. I was out with some friends. It was like a little bit of a reunion the other night, and we're at this very Tony restaurant, and I'm thinking, do I order an appetizer and an entree? Because when we split it later, are they going to notice that? You know, I just thought it's so, you know, it's the shadow of
living in the shadow of great
living
wealth.
in the shadow of great wealth, and it's definitely a hilarious opportunity to reevaluate your value system on a daily basis.
Now, the title of your book is
Yes.
I See You Made an Effort. Does that mean does one have to make more of an effort at age 50 or less of an effort?
Do I just start laughing hysterically
Start
now?
laughing.
Okay. Well, it takes so much more of an effort. There's the amount of sleep I have to get recommended for a woman of a certain age. There's these supplements I have to take recommended for a woman of a certain age. And do you take them or don't you take them? Because at any given day, you will read in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or whatever news source you go to, or Dr. Google, that the vitamin D you're taking is the right amount or it's too much and it could be toxic. And do the hormone replacement, don't do the hormone replacement. And then there's the amount of exercise, and you have to vary that exercise, your weight bearing and your strength building and your aerobic, and then how to dress and how to, you know, how to manage your career. So many of us, I'm a reinventor. I'm on my second, third career now because nobody works just one job anymore. I'm shopping for elder hostels in Costa Rica, looking for roommates, just putting it out there to people who wants to room with me when we go to retire at age 87 or whatever, never age of retirement. Now, it takes a lot more effort. Am I the only one who thinks that? Come on, or you're making it look.
But it's also possible, you know, you can just let yourself go and just decide, I'm just going to walk around in my bathrobe all day. I guess that's possible too.
It is very tempting to walk around my bathrobe all day, but I actually think that you can't, who can afford to let ourselves go anymore? I mean, everyone that I know, I'm going to be working until the afterlife, and I don't even believe.
And you also
in
talk
an
about
afterlife.
the expense of making the effort, that as you're at a time when your income is on a downward path, but the cost of holding yourself together is going up.
It's true. You know, one of the things that I'm writing about is I feel I have a vantage point from being part of what's being called the sandwich generation. So I'm a tail end baby boomer, born in 1961. By the way, I have on my business cards now Annabelle Gurwitch since 1961. I've just totally gone for the stating my age, embracing it. Unfortunately, on that business card, I have an email address that I can't remember the password for. So I can't give the card out anymore. But the sandwich generation is what we're being called. Those of us tail-end baby boomers who also waited to have children later because women of our age, and particularly women, started having children later. So here we are. Now I'm 53. I've still got a kid at home. So the sandwich refers to having a kid at home who has my needs, still trying to service a career and be viable in this economy.
And having elderly parents that you have to look after.
Have my parents who we just moved in to an assisted living place, so they have needs. So I'm, every decision, time, money, everything is do I put more money into my son's college fund? Do I put more money into my retirement fund? Do I help my parents so that they can have the best quality of life? Time, I'm racing between responsibilities at home, working and moving my parents into this home. It's the constant stretch. And when you're in the sandwich, you are really stressed. And in particular, it really does affect women who are still primarily the caregivers in this country. And so we're really stretched in all these ways. And that is why it's why I see you made an effort. It takes a lot of effort.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, take a deep breath while we take a short break.
Fantastic.
And then we'll be back with more with Annabelle Gurwitch after the following message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Annabelle Gurwitch, the author of I See You've Made an Effort, Compliments, Indignities and Survival Stories from the Edge of 50. It's just been published in paperback by the Bloom imprint of Penguin Books. You have a son, Ezra.
I do.
17.
I do.
At some point, you realized that you had become an embarrassment to him.
Oh, yes. Well, there is a very small window of acceptable behaviors for the mothers of teenage sons. I chew too loudly. The sound of my breathing offends him. I wore khaki once. Apparently, wearing khaki is tantamount to committing a crime. I made eye contact with him on his middle school campus. I waved hello. That was also a problem. I asked him if he was seeing a girl or not. So actually, anytime I speak, it's a very small window of acceptable behavior.
Is there anything that a mother can do to please her teenage child?
No, there's nothing. No, absolutely nothing.
Even now at 17, he's not grown out of that? Even at 17?
Oh, no. I'm just hoping, this is the thing is my friends who had kids when they were younger, he'll come around eventually one day. And I'm hoping to just live long enough to get to enjoy that. But right now I am persona non grata, and no matter what I do, he now plays in a band, and I have to, he doesn't drive yet, so I took him to a gig, and I had to try on 3 outfits before what I was wearing was acceptable for the drop-off, and then I had to hide in the shadows lest I be identified as his mother. So no, basically nothing.
Okay. Now, one of the more moving chapters in your book describes how you and I think 4 of your friends rallied to take care of a longtime friend who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Did that experience heighten your sense of your own mortality?
One of the moments, you asked about when do you realize you're at a certain age. For me, one of the moments of realizing I had attained a certain age was realizing I knew the good cancers from the bad cancers. That is something I did not know in my 20s. And when I heard pancreatic cancer, I'm old enough to know.
That's a bad one.
Good. And that whole experience of doing this is, when people have been calling it different things now, assisted suicide, aid in dying. She had picked a night and she had asked us to help her exit with some dignity. And that was, one of the most profound and hilarious nights of my life, because for all of us, it was both a celebration and a goodbye. It was the highs and the lows together. At one point in the middle of the night, I had to wake her up and say, "Don't die yet, Robin. We don't know your internet passwords." And I thought, oh my, all this information we lost. This is crazy, this 21st century kind of problem. But it was this monumental experience. And what it did for me, not only did it sort of enforce a sense of mortality, but it also was a wake-up call in terms of how much longer life can be. When you look at, I think that's one of the experiences that we have in middle age, or whatever you want to call this half-century moment, which can really be an opportunity. And this is one of the positive opportunities, is that since we are living longer, so many of us, at least in the first world, we have an opportunity to say, my gosh, and this is as frightening as a mortality, I might have 30 more years. How am I going to spend that? Which is why, you see some really interesting trends. For instance, women between the ages of 40 and 60 are leading in the entrepreneurship world in the United States. They're starting their own businesses. I mean, some of that also has to do with the employment opportunities, but it is a really interesting moment for people in terms of reinvention, of rededicating themselves to, you know, to a career, to health, for me, you know, I decided, because I'm someone who has a lot of anxiety and depression, to embrace a meditation practice.
Well, let's talk about meditation.
Yes.
Like many middle-aged people,
Yes.
you have tried meditation.
Yes, I have tried it. Like a tapas platter. I have tried every kind.
But it sounded like you were a very mediocre meditator.
Oh, I think that's a compliment. I would say I'm less than a mediocre meditator. I'm a terrible meditator, but I'm doing it anyway, like so many things in my life right now. I have accepted, one of the things I've accepted about in middle age is I've accepted that I suck at a number of things and I'm still doing them and I'm never going to get better at them. And that's been very freeing. This is one of those positive things. I am, even though I spent many years on television cooking, on Dinner and a Movie on TBS, I'm terrible in the kitchen. And when my son will say, this isn't great, I'm like, that's right, don't eat it. It's been incredibly, it's been a sense of relief. I'm terrible at accounting. I still have to do it, but I suck at it, and I'm just never going to get better at it. I definitely have found that meditation helps my life, but I've chronicled in one chapter, this is not an entire book about meditation, that would put me more to sleep than my meditation puts me to sleep, but I'm not good at it, but I'm doing it anyway.
Okay.
And
Even though during meditation you're wandering all over the place.
Yes, one of the things I love to think about in meditation are the breads of my youth, the things I have left behind now. All carbohydrates, unless I want to change into sweatpants immediately, are behind me. So I just fantasize about scones and challah and bagels. But let me just say, I wanted to write about that with a sense of humor and write about how utterly terrible I am at it, because you'll just find a lot of books which is, oh, the beauty and power of it. And I found that one of the greatest motivators and satisfactions I get in life are from my negative thinking and the power of negative thinking. I was just invited to give a speech somewhere, and they had invited me based on, they said it was a speech on loving your age. I misheard that. I thought the topic was love your rage. Mm-hmm. And I think that the two are very connected. You know, people always saying, like, oh, the power of positive thinking. Well, you know, it's negative thinking that has motivated me in my life.
Okay.
It's anger and dissatisfaction. I'm kidding, of course, but not really. I mean, I really do think that there's a lot of power in just saying, you know, I hate this meditation practice, but I'm going to do it anyway, as opposed to just sort of the mind-dulling exercise of trying to anesthetize yourself into positive thinking.
There could be a book in that.
You know, Barbara Ehrenreich actually wrote the book. My friend Barbara Ehrenreich, who wrote Nickel and Dimed, wrote a great book called Bright-Sided, eschewing the positive thinkers of the world, going for straight into negativity.
Okay.
And how powerful that can be.
Now, do you still pursue acting
Yes.
roles? You know, you write in your book about auditioning for a commercial.
Yes.
In which you played a medieval villager who
Yes.
is either, I couldn't tell if she was fleeing from or chasing a large troll.
Oh, I was fleeing from that troll. Yes, I was playing a crone. Yes, in the Middle Ages, which I actually realized later I was really too old for that role, because you would be dead by 50. I actually did it when I was 50. The lifespan was like, I think, 39. You know, when I can, I love acting, and I'm actually adapting this for the stage. I'm very excited about that.
You mean your book?
Yeah, I'm adapting the book. I'm actually writing an adaptation for the FX network for a television series based on that. And I'm adapting this as a solo show. We open in May in Los Angeles. Hopefully I'll be coming to New York with it. So when I have a chance, I love the collaborative process of acting. You know, I started right here in New York. I went to NYU. My first play was at Joseph Papp's, a New York Shakespeare Festival. And I love collaborating with people. And of course, now I collaborate with editors. And that I really enjoy. I as an actress, I learned that the collaboration process really elevates the work in most cases. So I miss that. I miss working with people because it's a lot of time alone writing. So I can't when I can, but it's hard because I find writing to be slow, and it takes me a long time. I'm working on a new book now, so it's hard to do both. It's hard to split the time. So I try.
What is it? What makes something funny? Is it irony? Is it an element of recognition so that the person who's hearing it says, wow, that's exactly how it is? What is it that makes something funny?
You know, for me, the things that are funny are the dissonance between reality and expectations. So, for instance, I went into that commercial to audition to play a mother with a kid cooking dinner, but that's not how they saw me. They saw me as a crone in a bonnet and wearing a sack of rough-hewn garments, fleeing from a troll, running down the cobblestone streets in the Middle Ages. And to me, that's where I find humor. It's the difference between the expectations and reality. I think people have there's so many different kinds of senses of humor, you know, and that's why, I mean, my gosh, there's so many different kinds of movies people like. I never liked like the rom-com movie, or particularly the one with they fall in love and it ends and they get married. My last book, You Say Tomato, I Say Shut Up, was about how people think marriage is the end of and the answer to all their problems, when really it's the beginning to your problems, newer, bigger problems. So, you know, expectations and reality and the dissonance between
is where you find the humor.
That's where my sweet spot of humor is.
Okay. I'm afraid we're out of time. I want to thank Annabelle Gurwitch for joining me today. I see you've made an effort. Compliments, Indignities, and Survival Stories from the Edge of 50 has just been published by the Plume imprint of Penguin Books, and it's really a very entertaining read. For the City University and One to One, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.